Welcome to the Starter Girlz podcast, your ultimate source of inspiration and empowerment. We're here to help women succeed in every area of their lives: career, money, relationships, and health and well-being, while celebrating the remarkable journeys of individuals from all walks of life who've achieved amazing things. Whether you're looking to supercharge your career, build financial independence, nurture meaningful relationships, or enhance your overall well-being, the Starter Girlz podcast is here to guide you. Join us as we explore the journeys of those who dare to dream big and achieve greatness. I'm your host, Jennifer Loading, and welcome to this episode. Welcome to another episode of the Starter Girlz podcast. Wherever you are tuning in today, we are so thrilled to have you here today. And I've got another fabulous guest coming on to the show. This episode is all about transforming, and I love it. From a single parent in debt to a global business success story, with a background as a visionary and leader, she's known for crafting strategies and blueprints that propel individuals and organizations to new heights. Her work has touched major corporations and countless small businesses alike. So we're going to dive into this conversation. You're going to get to meet her in just a few minutes. But before we do that, I need to do a quick shout out to our sponsor. This episode is brought to you by Walt Mills Productions. Need to add excitement to your YouTube videos or some expert hands for editing? Look no further. Walt Mills is the solution you've been searching for. Walt is not only your go-to guy for spicing up content, he's the force behind a thriving film production company with numerous titles in the pipeline. Always on the lookout for raw talent, Walt is eager to collaborate on film and internet productions. With a background deeply rooted in entertainment and promotion, Walt Mills leverages years of skills to give you the spotlight you deserve. Want to learn more about Walt and his work? Head on over to waltmillsproductions.net and let your content shine. All right, and with that, I'm ready to bring my guest on today. So Beate Chelette, the growth architect and founder of the Women's Code. Her journey is nothing short of extraordinary. As a first-generation immigrant who faced financial hardship, she turned her passion for photography into a thriving global business, ultimately selling it to Bill Gates in a multi-million-dollar deal. Recognized as one of the top 100 global thought leaders and one of the 50 must-follow women entrepreneurs, her insights are both impactful and transformative. She's also the author of the acclaimed book, Happy Woman, Happy World, and has worked with high-profile clients like Amazon, Chevron, and Johnson & Johnson. So Beate, welcome to the show. We're so excited to have you here today.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. It's a pleasure to be here and an honor.
I know. Don't you love that bio? This is my favorite part of the whole show.
You know, sometimes when you listen to somebody talking about you and sharing your milestones, you always go, it sounds really good if somebody says it. But when you go through it, right, just this transformation from being $135,000 in debt to becoming a multimillionaire, I mean, that what took you like 3 seconds to say. And we're really talking about a span of 13 years. And you go, well, yes, it sounds really good now, but then it wasn't.
Right. No, and it's so true. And I say this is my favorite part. I absolutely love the conversations with you gals, and whoever comes on this show. I love the conversations. But you're so right when you hear these bios, and I came from 22 years in Mary Kay where we always had to have accolades, and it was always hard for us, like for me personally, to write about myself. But then I would hear somebody else say it, and I would be like, wow, I did like some cool stuff. Like you think about that and you hear it and somebody else put those into words and it's just kind of fun. But you're right. It's not an overnight success in any of these endeavors, right? It's always this real long, painful journey that we have to go through mixed in with some really great moments. And so I want to even start right there with you because you've done so many incredible things, but I want to start with your journey. What brought you here as an immigrant, got you here, and was this pivotal point for you, moving from this photography business, just starting out in this business and then moving into where you are now. So I'm going to let you kind of take it away from coming over here and pave that path for us.
Yes, thank you. And do jump in if something comes up or it gets too long or too complicated. So the story really is, I think, very much like many of your listeners. I never felt I fit in. I come from Germany originally. And in everybody's book, German is a little bit rigid, and it really is that. And when we go through these aptitude tests in Germany, they ask us all kinds of questions. What are you good at? Do you like being outside? Do you mind carrying heavy loads? And so I do all these things, naive as I am as a 16-year-old. And then it turns out that they recommended me to be a roofer. Now, not to say, Jennifer, that roofing is a bad business. It just certainly wasn't my idea of a career.
Sure.
And so everything then I said that I wanted to be something creative, a jewelry designer, textile designer, photographer, she shot down and she says, no, 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 there's too many applicants, not enough jobs, too many applicants, not enough jobs. And then at the end of it, I'm like, well, this is ridiculous. Why are we even talking about it if you can't get me to where I want to go? And she says, well, don't you want to be a secretary? I said, oh, so now I'm from a roofer to a secretary, and we just like glazed over everything I wanted to do. And I said, no, thank you. I don't think this works for me. And that was the first time in my life where I really recognized that what other people's opinions are do not necessarily have any meaning to me until I did become a photographer, and I'm standing on this glacier in Switzerland. It's a funny story because, my job was to organize the helicopter that brought this Audi Quattro on top of the glacier. And so here I am, I'm on a glacier in Switzerland. The helicopter comes with a and you see it come over. Like you hear, like James Bond, right? You hear the sound before you see the helicopter, and then it comes, and there's this long string and this net, and there's the car underneath. And I did organize all this. So I said, I am outside, I am schlepping, and I'm not afraid of heights. It's exactly what the aptitude test said. It's just the interpretation was wrong. And I think that's a really important message, Jennifer, to share with your audience, to say, sometimes it's right. It's just what other people think it is, isn't really your path. And from there on, I realized very quickly that I was a better business person than I was a photographer, sadly. And I became, really got involved in the business side of the creative arts, being a photo editor at Elle magazine in Germany at 23, making, for back then a lot of money, and people would have killed to have this kind of job. I thought it was rather boring because, again, I'm running into what people say, well, now you need to stay in this setting for X amount of time before we then can get you somewhere. I said, but where do I go from a photo editor? I'm already the photo editor at Elle magazine. Am I going to be the photo editor at Vogue magazine? What's the difference, right? It's just ridiculous. Am I going to be the senior photo editor, but I'm still going to do the same work? I don't want to be an art director. I don't want to be an editor in chief. So I knew at 23 that I had come already at the end of my career. And that is what led me to immigrate to the United States and then start all over again. Truth be told, there is a lot of personal trauma and child abuse that I went through. So there's a reason why I'm on the other side of the world, because there was something that I wanted to get away from. And then I had to figure out how I'm going to start from scratch. And then I made all the mistakes in the books. I married an alcoholic and a pathological liar. I was laid off in a big recession. I had to figure out how to run my business by myself with a 6-month-old. I divorced when my daughter was a year old. I'm an immigrant. I have no family support. I have no money. We're going through this massive recessions, fires, floods, riots, earthquakes. I mean, it just kept on coming. And I'm barely holding on, with my fingernails on a chalkboard until the day comes when I'm $135,000 in debt. And I go to Germany to drum up some business because it's game over. At this point, we're 13 years into this, and I'm going like, okay, fine. I have to borrow money to pay interest on borrowed money, which is the death spiral to bankruptcy. And my father has a stroke. My father did not have a stroke, Jennifer. My father had pancreatic cancer, and my best friend, number one supporter, dies within 6 weeks. And I stand at this grave in Germany, and I want you all to kind of like go there with me for a second. So, my father is buried in Nether Bavaria. So it's this picturesque, small town with this Baroque church on the hill that overlooks this gorgeous valley. And we literally just put my father into this hundreds of years old cemetery. And my phone rings, and it's my office, and they say, we've just been served a notice. So now I'm losing the house. So I fell to my knees, I raised my fist, and I yelled at God, and I said, "Hey, what's going on here?" It just made no sense to me that somebody had to endure so much. And I was a good person. I didn't lie. I didn't steal. I worked my butt off. I raised my child by myself, and it just kept on coming. And I surrendered. And when I came back from Los Angeles to Germany to Los Angeles, not too long after, I got a letter from the White House, where the President of the United States lives. In my absolute desperation, I had written a letter to the President of the United States and asked him for help. And I only did that, Jennifer. And for those of you who are not watching but listening to this, Jennifer has a very puzzled face right now, because she goes, "Who the heck writes a letter to the President of the United States?"
This story's intriguing to me. Yeah, you tell.
And I did that because my former mother-in-law just wouldn't stop. She kept nagging me. She says, "Why are you wasting your time? Why don't you go and write the number one guy in the country? Why don't you go straight to the top? Why are you wasting your time with banks and other things? Just go straight to the top." It made sort of sense in a weird way. Well, imagine when I got the letter from the White House. So it put me in touch with the Small Business Administration. And I met the second in command. And I met the second in command, not some underwriter, at entry level, because he also got a letter from the White House. And he wanted to see who this nutcase was that wrote a letter to the president instead of picking up the phone and calling him.
Oh, my goodness.
And I said to him, it never even occurred to me that I could call you.
Right.
He says, "Well, you do know that's what we do here at the Small Business Administration." I said, "Well, now that you say it, yeah, sure. But back then, in my blinders on and my panic, I didn't see that." And they found me a bank. It freed up my line of credit that gave me the cash to go to break even 3 months later. 18 months later, I'm the world leader in my category, and the category was celebrity homes. So if you open a magazine, you see the house of Madonna or Francis Ford Coppola or Cindy Crawford, Simon Baker, Julianne Moore. Those were our stories. And because it was an editor at Elle magazine in Germany, I knew how to sell these because that was my previous background. And so now we're the leader in the category in the world. We can't even find them fast enough to sell them. And that's when the Bill Gates company comes and knocks on the door and says, "Well, how do you do it?" And I said, "Well, you want it, you need to pay for it." I mean, any decent woman would say that.
Yeah, you're giving me chills. Woo.
And they say, "How much do you want?" I said, "A couple $1 million." And they said, "Fine."
Gosh.
And that's how I became a multimillionaire 18 months after the worst moment of my life. And then I took a position, ran their global entertainment division for about a year and a half, which I did not enjoy. That's when I really learned on the discrepancy with how women are treated in corporate America versus it was a shock to my system. I couldn't even believe that all of this was going on. That's when I founded the Women's Code, wrote my book, Happy Woman, Happy World. And ever since, I've been really talking about two things. And one is how to grow your business and how to really understand how to align spirituality with strategic success. And the other one is how to help women lead, not beg.
Love it. Oh my gosh. I was getting chills listening to your story. And it's so interesting to me, this huge tragedy that you had here. And then to go from that all the way to this. I mean, it's like this just, again, not an overnight thing, but like this massive leap across. And it's like I love these stories. I think these stories are so powerful because it just shows that, that everybody can have a really, as I say, a crappy situation and things can just turn around, and where you are today may not be where you are tomorrow. I just love the story. I was getting chills the whole time you were telling it to me. I love it. I love your book. I love what you're doing with women. I think that is so powerful, and it's a much needed thing. So I love that you're doing that, and I love that you've been able to find your passion, and I love the whole thing about the spirituality because I think it's so much of what I talk about, really just working in our core values and finding what we enjoy doing and really being passionate about those things. So I just love it all. I think it's such a great story. Like we talk about forever, the story.
Well, to your point, I think it's really important to point this out. We don't tell these stories to tell your audience how
Right.
fabulous I am.
Right.
That's not the point. The point is that now you know somebody who did this. And
Mhm.
because now that you know somebody who did this, you know it's possible.
Right.
So if you know it's possible for somebody like me, that means it's possible for someone like you. I mean, indisputable evidence right here.
Agreed.
And then that means that if it's possible for me and it's possible for you, the question is only how are you going to get there?
Right.
The question is no longer if or can I. The question is how. And I think that's important about the work that you do, Jennifer, because that's what you keep talking about that
Mhm.
to your audience. It is possible. And it comes with, and that's where the spirituality comes in, because that's the energy you want to exude. You got to believe it yourself that it's
Mhm.
possible. And that's why we share stories of hope, because you never know what somebody's listening now goes and takes home and says, that one thing, that's my lifeline. I'm going to take that from here on out. And I believe that I can do it. And that, I think, is the most important part when you listen to podcasts, is that you find the thing that you truly, truly, truly can believe in,
Mhm.
because that's the energy, that's the vibration on where you start. And then you take it like a dough and you stretch it further and further and further until you're really involved in this energy and you're attracting more of the good stuff.
Yeah, I agree. Well, and in a world where we're hearing so many negative things all the time, I'm like you, because you have a show too. We talk to so many different people doing so many incredible things, and you realize there's just all these people out there that doing great things that you would have never known about had you not been doing this. Had you not been in that space. So I think it's such a wonderful thing that we get to do this and share these stories. And I'm with you. I feel like so many of us sort of say similar messages, but something you say, there's that one person that picks up that, and in that particular time you say something, it resonates with that one person, where somebody else could have said it 5 times and it wasn't resonating. So I think that's the beauty of what we get to do in this media podcast world, is share these messages and have all of you incredible people come on and really just reinforce the things that we're putting out into the world. So it's a good thing. I love it.
Yeah.
We talked about hardships, and even in the business part of it, you talked about so many things there. What advice, I think this is kind of the part I love to get into, is like the personal stuff, like for somebody maybe stepping into that space, because I feel like mindset, resilience, tenacity, grit, all those things. You and I both have German backgrounds, so I just feel like we have that just
Yeah,
that
go.
persist,
Yeah,
stubbornness.
yeah. Genau.
I laugh all the time because my mom, used to tell me when I was a kid, I'm still this way. I'm in my 50s. I'm still this way. Like I would be one of those kids that she would tell me to go to the corner because I couldn't say I was sorry. And I could stay in that corner for a very long time. She'd get tired of looking at me and eventually just say, go to your room. I'm done. So I think there's something to all that. But I would love to know, just a little bit about the mindset with this for you, because I think this is such a powerful thing, how you go about tackling adversity and strategy and all of those things with the mindset piece, if you want to add to that.
Yeah, I think what I've learned today, because back then, and again, I want to be really clear, it wasn't exactly like I was going through this and I had all of this figured out.
Right.
I was going through this to figure it all out. And that is the most important piece, no matter where you are in your journey right now, that you look at this and you say, my mess is my message. As I am moving through this mess and I'm figuring this out, it is the message that I'm going to be sharing. Because the message you share is never, I woke up a princess, everything was handed to me, life was great, the prince showed up one day, then he became king, I became queen, we lived happily ever after and produced a bunch of really happy princes and princesses.
Right.
That would be lovely. But
I know, right?
it's also an incredibly boring story, and that took me, 30 seconds to tell.
Mm-hmm.
But the story always is the prince fell in love and he had to fight the dragon and the girl disappeared. He had to go find her. It was her fighting some evil stepmother somewhere and going through all these until they finally figured it out, and then they were together. So we have to look at our journey, especially if we have had some sort of activation. And I always say that I work with people that are activated, and only somebody who's activated knows what that actually means. It means that you have a message, a voice inside that tells you, go do something.
Mm-hmm.
And you are here to make an impact. and you're trying to figure out what it is, whose voice is it anyway? Is it your ego? Is it really the voice of one source or God or whatever you want to call it? Am I really here to spread a message? Isn't that by itself preposterous? Am I not being humble enough? So as you figure this out and then all these obstacles come, you want to say, what is it about me that bothers me the most?
Good.
My lack of success.
Right.
Okay. My inability to make money, my money issues, my confidence, my thought that I'm not lovable,
Right.
my having to overcome abuse. Whatever these stories are for you, that is what you need to figure out how to turn that into something, because that's what makes people resonate. So I'm going to give you an example. So it was literally about, it was on Tuesday this week. I went and did a talk, like a workshop type thing with a group of entrepreneurs. And I talked about something that I call the upper limit. And the upper limit is a belief system that gets you to a particular point, but not further. Like many runners they run 2 miles or 5 miles, but that's what they run, which I just learned, except your husband. Your husband just keeps running.
Yeah.
But
like
most
Forrest Gump.
Exactly. And if you don't stop him, he'll still be running next year.
Hey, they've had to pull him off before he might be doing it.
Too funny. And so we have a belief system where we say that's enough, or that's good enough, or I don't need to push myself further than that, or I deserve a rest right now. So we all have upper limits. So I'm taking them through this exercise of this upper limit. And then I asked the question, it's like, so if you knew that there was something, right? If you knew that something that bothered you, something that somebody said to you, the words that cut, the behavior that really made you feel terrible. If you remembered a moment like that, how old are you? And so one guy goes and says, I'm 5. And it's my parents telling me that I can never do anything right. And I said to him, you just bought a business, right? And he says, yes. I said, you're a sales professional. And he is a certified sales professional with one of the big sales training companies. And I said, let me guess. I said, so you now used that knowledge that you have to find a company that wasn't perfect, but that could be perfect if they only could figure out that one piece that you happen to know better than anybody else, sales, right? And he looks at me and he says, that was my criteria. I said, your mess became your message. Because if you now tell me in your story that you learned this and now you apply it as this, I said, how is this now when you tell the story that instead of being a sales trainer, you bought a company that does whatever injectable plastic molds, where everybody's going to go, what? I said, if you tell the stories that way, I said, how does that feel for you? And he goes, that's freaking powerful. I said, your message is in the mess. Yeah. And it was, I mean, and you could see it, it's like the weight just lifted off his shoulders. And he says, oh my God, that's the most powerful thing I've heard in a long time. So you have the resilience to endure, not because you're being punished. You have the resilience to endure because you need to find out what the gold is that you're supposed to tell other people about.
Entrepreneurs, are you ready to level up your leadership skills? Tune in now for an exclusive offer designed just for you.
This is my time.
Did you know 63% of consumers prefer businesses aligned with their values? Recognizing your core values isn't just vital for business growth, it's the bedrock of effective leadership. Whether you're a seasoned entrepreneur or an aspiring creator, identifying your core values is a key step in constructing the framework of a successful leader, enabling you to lead authentically, expand your business, and live life on your terms.
I never settled on play, putting the kettle to flame. I go 100 all day, foot on the pedal, no brakes. 10, 9, paid on my dues, waited in line. 8, 7,
Are you ready to access tools to kickstart your leadership journey? Unlock a treasure trove of insights and get your free resources at www.linktree/Jennifer Loading. Take that crucial first step toward realizing your leadership aspirations and elevate your leadership game today.
Ready to shine brighter than all of the
Right. It's good. I hadn't thought of it that way. I like the mess and the mess. I like that. It's interesting because it's, like I was telling somebody, I'm in the process. I'm working in a mastermind myself right now. We could talk about this, which is good because people can hear this stuff. So I'm working in this mastermind right now because I built out this. I think it's a high ticket course. It's pretty in depth. I worked with a mentor for 2 years to build this thing out. And then of course I got it built, ready to go. And then I get to the whole, like, how do we do the message, right? Like, what's the message we're using this? So I'm working in this mastermind, and it's so funny because I'm having to go through a little bit of what you're talking about right now. Like, I've got this great program. And I'm like, what is the message of this program? Like, what is this? I know what it's doing, but I've got to get this in the right articulation and the verbiage, right? And so I'm going through this. So it was so funny. Right before I jumped on here, I sent over, she's got us working through a worksheet. So I sent over my notes, and I'm like, I'm sending this over, but I think that I'm overthinking this. And so when you said that in the because I'm going back and I'm thinking this is for female entrepreneurs. What was my pain, or what was the thing that I needed to work through? And because that's the reason I built this out. That was the pain why I built it out, right? So it's so interesting when you say that, because I think sometimes we overcomplicate it a little bit, and it's right there in front of us, right? It's like right there,
100%.
what we were going through, the pain. And I think even like when I think about this podcast, I think about all the years that and I've talked about this in multiple episodes, when I was younger, I used to get in trouble, punished for talking, like, because I was friendly in school a lot and I wanted to have friends and have conversation.
There's not one report card I got that it didn't say talks too much.
You know the pain, right?
Yeah.
So I got in trouble for this. But here's what's funny. Because of that, like during, middle school and high school, and even, I would say even in my 20s and 30s, I was kind of withdrawn and shy. I was afraid to sort of kind of come, speak up. I wasn't that way when I was young, but then I gone through this period. And interestingly enough, I find it very funny that the pain of all that is what I do now. I talk on a podcast and I speak and I do these things. There's the mess.
Your mess became the message.
Yep.
Right. And, and I went through the same thing, and don't think that if you run a business that this isn't periodically,
right?
Because what happens in the aftermath of COVID and us finding yet another new normal, we understand that business constantly fluctuates. The minute you got it figured out, it's already changed.
Right.
And then AI comes and throws everything upside down. So you also want to say, is my message still relevant? And, I went on a deep spiritual journey, Jennifer, and I had my butt kicked. And then I came back and I heard very loud and clear that I needed to bring spirituality into my work. I've always been intuitive and spiritual.
Yeah.
But I never talked about it. And I fell into this trap of this internet marketing language because everybody tells you that's what works.
Right.
Well, it really doesn't.
Yeah.
It really doesn't. Because if it would work, wouldn't large companies like McKinsey and Amazon and all these people use it too? They really kind of don't.
Yeah.
They have a different kind of a message. It's the internet marketers are telling every service provider ever to walk the planet that we have to be just like Alex Hormozy and Gary Vee and what's his name, Grant Cardone.
Right.
And it just doesn't work. It works for them. It does not work for us. And by the way, they're all men, and they all like private planes and watts of cash. The people I work with do not desire to run around with vats of cash. They want to make an impact. So you have to remember that in the process that you're going through, that what bothers you the most or what the challenge is that you're experiencing, that's where the gift is.
Yeah.
And instead of saying, I couldn't possibly do that, you do it. I had a client and she said, well, I want to be a business coach for entrepreneurs. But she is Christian. And she is Christian. And then she says, and I really believe in God and Jesus. It's not spiritual, it's Christian. It's a Christian belief system.
Sure.
But I am afraid that if I say that I'm going to repel people that take offense with organized religion.
Right.
And I said, what's the problem?
Yeah.
I said, do you know how many people are searching for somebody who thinks just like them because they have the same
Right.
pain point that they feel they cannot talk about how their religious, not spiritual, religious belief system and their love for Jesus factors into their everyday decision making,
Yeah.
and that they get ridiculed when they say, I pray before every meeting. I said, do you think you can help them? She took it and she became a 7-figure business in no time.
Yeah. And would you probably agree on this? That I think sometimes we think we want to be able to, we're worried about repelling because we want to be able to be liked by so many people, when it's better to just really find out who our market is and really cater to that small, whatever, 20%, whomever that is, that resonates with us. So
100%. I mean,
Yeah.
do you want to have an attraction or persuasion model?
Right. Yeah.
So the persuasion model, that's internet marketing. That's, here's my product and I'm going to persuade that this particular model is the one thing that you need, and then everything magically works out.
Yeah.
The attraction model is, here's who I am, here's what we talk about. There's 2 questions you need to answer. Do you want and can't and should you do what I do by yourself? And that's a yes or no question.
Yeah.
And if you say no, then the next question is simply, am I the right one to help you? And that's also a yes or no question. And then we're done. We don't have to go into any of this insane, yes, but, and if you don't, no. Here it is.
Good.
It's right here. Am I right for you? Do you want to do it by yourself? Yes or no?
Yeah, no, that's good. I agree with you totally. I think that's what I'm talking about, the overcomplication, right? Like it's just clear. And I like that because I think, and that's part of what we're doing in this mentor. She's really trying to get us clear on what that messaging is so that we are targeting those right people and recognize it. And it's so funny because when I work with my clients, we have these same conversations. I always think it's great how we're coaching our people. I always say coaches have coaches. I've had, like I was 22 years at Mary Kay. I always had mentors, and then I came out of that, and I have continually worked in some kind of capacity with a mentor or a coach because I feel like we need them. I mean, and we get so caught up in looking at the other things, and it's so easy to be the eyes on somebody else's, right? But sometimes when it's in our own space and we have to back up, we can't quite remove it. Like she was telling me, she's like, you're getting hung up on, she's trying to go working from this way, but I was hung up over here. She's like, put that down. Don't look at it right now. Because my brain just keeps wanting to look at that one thing. And I'm like, she's put it down, So I love all this, and it makes perfect sense what you're saying. I would love to know from a personal standpoint, because you've said so many great things here. And I think impact, I feel like that's the word I'm resonating with you on, because I think we're speaking in that same way. Because, I always say every day I would do things for free if I could, because I just enjoy really what I get to do. I love to be able to create impact and make a difference in people's lives and share stories and talk about these things and show people what I've learned. I think that's what it's all about when we talk about creating legacy and impact. But I would love to know, personally, what you love about what you get to do, because I think this question is such a powerful, it just resonates with people. I think it's such a good question.
Yeah. There are many, many different things, as I'm sort of coming out on the other side of this, because I'm now a new grandparent. So my daughter had a baby. Yes, and I have a big birthday, so I'm going to be 60, which in itself is a shocking number to me. And it wasn't really so much the age, but it really was the arrival of baby Kayliana, where I sat down and I said, what matters really now? And there was this moment where, my relationship with my daughter wasn't always great, but it's really great right now. So I had cooked this amazing lamb roast, and, there was rosemary and the whole house smelled, and my daughter came with her husband. They're living now in Las Vegas with a baby, and my husband's daughter with her husband came, and friends came, and wine was had. We're sitting there, we're laughing. And then the baby fell asleep, and my daughter said, do you want to put her down in the crib to sleep? I said, oh, no, I need to hold her first. And I sat down and I sat in a chair and I held her, and I'm looking at her face, her beautiful, perfect face. And, when babies sleep, the lip shivers a little bit, and you go like, what are they dreaming about? And then I looked up, and I'm in this beautiful house that my husband actually physically built himself. And my daughter's there, and they're laughing, and we have the money to buy good food. We can afford a nice bottle of wine. We have a nice car in the driveway. I have money in the bank. And I'm thinking to myself, this is there. This is there.
Mm-hmm.
There. And then it kind of like dawned on me, Jennifer, where I said, this is what lights me up, is I want to share how you collect here moments so that you know when you're there. Because we get so caught up in rushing to there,
Right.
that we forget that this conversation where you have chills when somebody says something that really resonates with you, that's a moment.
Right.
That's a moment.
I'm writing this down.
Yeah. And it's a story that just came to me, and I've been telling the story, and everybody resonates with this because I just got an email earlier from an event that I did, and the woman says, I can't stop thinking about how you talked about this moment because I felt that, and it's changed the way I live my daily life.
Mm-hmm.
That's what lights me up. It is something that comes out of the mess, out of the hardship, out of these, my God, I got to get there, got to get the money figured out, I got to get the relationship figured out. Why is my daughter not speaking to me? And then you were there and you go, oh, now I get it.
Right.
So what can I now, if I reverse engineer how I got there, how
Mm-hmm.
can I package this and give this to people and say, okay, you got problems with your kid? Here's some of the things that I've learned. You got issues with your woman leadership attribute? Lead. Don't beg. Lead. Stop trying to just freaking lead. Okay. That's all you ask for. You don't need to apologize. You don't need to come up with reasons. You don't need nothing. Just lead. Will you?
Yeah. Love it.
Because that's what it's about. And if it's business, well, if you don't have an internal resonance with the why and the passion, and it's not connected and hooked deeply into your heart, what you're doing, you're just trying to settle for money in the bank.
Right.
That is going to be difficult to come by because you have no passion for it. And then you're going to get so frustrated that you burn out, you hate your business, it hates you right back, and you blow up your entire life. So that's what lights me up, is to say, if I go and instead of saying I'm old, I'm a grandparent, what good is it? Technically, I could be retiring. What do I have to say? Is the message that I have relevant for anybody? I could fall right back in. I could fall right into that thing. That's not what Ruth Bader Ginsburg did. Right? That's not what some of the great women did. They said, I had learned hard lessons. Madeleine Albright.
Mm-hmm.
I learned hard lessons, and I will tell you the lessons as long as anybody will hear them, in the hopes that someone somewhere can take a benefit out of it. That's what lights me up in business and in women leadership.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I love it. And I think it goes, I'm listening to all this about these here moments and stuff. And I think it's interesting because I think those of us that arrive in those situations, the stories are always, it's like the hero's journey, right? Like you go through and the stories are different. I was telling someone the other day, because I feel like I've had different hard stories, but mine have been centered around medical stuff, that I've had these weird, random, not really due to bad health, probably just life choices that I've made that resulted in these weird things. But long story short, between 2000, I got diagnosed in 2012 with something and spent 4 years dealing with that, reversed the condition, got off all my meds, thought I was free. And then I ended up in 21 getting diagnosed with another different condition, but equally painful, consuming. And it landed me in the ER 8 times over a 2-year window. But long story short, I've been working with this functional nurse practitioner. And it's interesting because the last few months, I've been working with her since February, and I've had, not 100% recovery, but 80, and I'll take it because it's good. I'm eating, I'm feeling good. And I always gauge my work. If I know that if I'm excited and passionate about what I'm doing, then I'm probably feeling okay. But I'm telling you all this because what I have found is, in this moment now where I'm feeling really good, 2 things have happened. One, I'm on fire about getting things done. Like I've got this, I don't know what you want to call it, kick-ass mode right now where I am knocking things out, and I'm doing it at like a crazy speed, right? But also there's this part of me that when you're talking about all these hero moments, that I have certain boundaries, things in place. Like I value my morning time. Like I'm up at 5 every single day. And I like my mornings. I don't like to be anywhere before a certain time in the morning because I want to walk my dogs. I want to sit and have my green tea. I want to read. I want to do all those things that I feel like are moments for me that are mine, And I think that's what I value so much, are all these things that I get to do now. And I have the ability to do them because I feel good and I value it and appreciate it. Right? Like I appreciate all those moments now that I might have taken for granted. It's like when I was teaching aerobics and I went in to go do yoga, and I'm like, there's no way I'm going to do yoga. I can't sit still long enough to breathe. Now I love yoga. I appreciate yoga. It's all those moments. So I when you were talking about all of this, I think it's a really valuable lesson.
I'm so happy that it resonates with you.
Yeah.
It's such a simple thing. And to have a reminder like that to say, oh, we're having a moment.
Right.
And then, when your husband runs his race and he makes it through the finish line, that's a moment.
It's a moment. Yeah.
Because
of those moments.
Yes.
He's done a lot of those races. We've had lots of those moments. I don't know that we always appreciated him when he was young.
It's a large deposit of moments right there.
Yes.
And to really say, well, my husband, when he was doing the father-daughter dance at the wedding, and he did not want to do like the left, right, like sort of boring dance. He wanted to do a dance.
Okay, awesome.
And his daughter is in San Francisco and we're in Los Angeles. So I found the choreography and I was practicing with him here in Los Angeles. And she was practicing with her husband in San Francisco. And then they came together and then they did the dance. And after the wedding, the daughter came over and she brought us the photo. And there it is. And it's the dip at the end. And her arm is out, with a perfect, whatever hand position.
Yeah.
And he's holding her in the perfect position. His foot is turned outward in the perfect position. He has this face of complete pride, and she is just relieved, this all worked out. And she just throws herself in the arms of her father in the father-daughter dance. And I look at the photo and I said, this is the moment. And it's captured.
Yeah.
And every time now we look at that photo, we remember, we worked for like 6 weeks on this. I can't even tell you how many times he stepped on my toes. And twice I walked away from him because it was so impossible to deal with. And so cranky because he couldn't, his logical brain couldn't figure out the dance movement.
Yeah.
But he persisted and we got there. And every time I walked by this photo, I said, see, remember the moment. Remember the moment. The moment. This is the perfect moment we worked for.
The pain to get the moment.
Yes.
Yep. It's a great story. Such a great story. And I'm glad the photo there. Those are the best. I feel like it's always those candid moments that you don't plan for that come out to be the best. This has been awesome. I know I could talk to you forever. What an incredible story. And I think this is what this whole show is about living the extraordinary, and that's what I think it is. And it really just starts with that, making that decision to do something different, and sometimes you have to go through the havoc and the pain and the hardship to get to those moments that we're talking about, right? Collecting those moments.
Truly.
So I love it. So if our audience wants to get in touch with you, they want to follow you, they want to find the book, they want to find out more about what you've got going on, where would you like us to send them?
Of course. So for anybody who wants to check out the book, it's called Happy Woman, Happy World. You find it on Amazon in all versions, audio, ebook, and a printed version. If you want to take a free quiz, we've created a quiz that's called What's Your Talent Worth? And that shows your earning potential in this environment. So you go to what'syourtalentworth.com.
Okay.
It's going to spit out a number. And it's a mathematical calculation. I've created a profit formula. And then if the number you're making is not matching the number it says, then there is a discrepancy and you should reach out to either your coach, Jennifer, or reach out to us. And for anybody who's heard something here on the show and says, I really need to speak to her, I don't need anything else, I just want to speak to her, go to uncoverysession.com and schedule a 15-minute session. Make sure you mention the show so that I know that I can give you priority treatment, and I'll be happy to put my head into your business and see what, if anything, I can do to help you figure out on how to get through to this next level. And while we're at it, I really encourage all of you listening, go to wherever you pick up this show and give Jennifer some love. This is a labor of love. Give her some love back by subscribing to the show, by sharing this episode with one person that really should hear what we were talking about today.
This is wonderful. And I'm going to pick up your book. I want to read it. So I'm going to check it out.
I'll send it to you.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Because it's funny. I'm in the middle. I'm finishing up 2 books right now. And this is how it's like a continual process of reading, but I just love the title already. I was sold on the title. So happy world. It's all good. This has been awesome. I so appreciate your time and all the knowledge that you poured in. And it really, like I said, I think the story is such a powerful story and a message. I mean, so many great things here we talked about. We could probably talk for a while. So thank you. Yeah. Thank you for the plug-in. And same to you, to our listeners. Check out her podcast, grab her book, reach out to her, follow her, do all the things, right? Because that's what we're all about, is supporting each other. And so to our audience, we appreciate you. If you found the episode inspiring and informative, of course, like Beate said, go hit that subscribe button, like, comment, do all the things. And as I always say, in order to live the extraordinary, you must start, and every start begins with a decision. You guys take care, be safe, be kind to one another, and we will see you next time.